Good evening, everybody. I don't have any statements, so I'll just wait for your great questions.
I'm not sure what we can ask, but I'll try this.
Well, you can ask anything. It's just what I can answer.
Have you had anybody on the staff research whether you would be the first general manager in NBA history to possibly go his first 2 drafts without a pick?
Let me ask you a question. Have you done the research? Okay. No, no one's done the research. But in all honesty, we prepare like we have a pick in both the first and second round because you never know what happens. We prepared last year the same way. So I would say, though, we're more prepared this year because I think I started like a week before the draft last year. Or I'm more prepared.
Well, let me try this one, Nico. Are you guys trying to get into the draft, either the first or the second round?
We're open to anything. I mean, we're not calling people trying to trade our players to get into the draft, but you never know what comes up.
Nico, what's your overall assessment of the talents in this NBA draft overall?
I think it's talented. I do think that there's probably a lump of 20 guys that could go mid-first to early second, and it's tough to figure out who's which teams are gonna like which guys. But I do think it's a talented, more deep than top end.
Nico, historically over the last 20 years, no team from the organization from the Western Conference has gotten less out of the draft overall than the Mavericks have. That's kind of been purposeful on their part for the most part. I wanted to ask you, would you like to buck that trend? Would you like to see in the future the Mavericks get more production? Do you think that it's more important than perhaps it was thought of in the past?
Tough for me to answer the past, but I mean, our best player, Luka, was drafted by the Mavs, so feels like they've done a decent job. I'm sure glad he's on our team.
Nico, as you think about, as you're going into not only tonight but the next few days, free agency, it seems like one of the best things this team has going for it right now is continuity going into a second season under Jason. Do you have to be cognizant about not changing too much? Is that part of your thinking?
Yeah, I think that's important. You know, the things I talk about, I talked to you guys several times about it, is our team and the connectedness that we had. And, you know, you see how we kind of started off slow last year. So I think the beauty of us, you know, and I said we'll be better at the start of the season than we were last year. Well, part of that's having continuity. So it's extremely important.
A non-draft related question, but when you see Luka posting all these workout videos, does it make you really excited?
It does, and it makes me laugh too. But no, it does. It definitely makes me excited to know that he's in the gym, working out, preparing for next year, especially so soon after the season.
Obviously, a lot was made last season about him maybe not being in the best shape to start the season. Do you think that's a trend we won't see this year?
I'm hopeful. No, I would bet on Luka. I would bet that he'll come in a lot better shape than last year.
You mentioned you feel more prepared because you had more time to prepare. How has this offseason, it's been about a month since we talked to you at the end of the season, how has this offseason been different going into the draft versus a year ago?
Well, the preparation just didn't start when we lost. You know, we've been preparing from a team. We have a bunch of scouts, really good scouts, and so we've been preparing, watching film. Finley and I are always watching film on game days, talking about the 3 or 4 players we're going to watch film on, and then, you know, after that we'll sit there and talk about the guys we liked, didn't like. So the preparation's been all year long. It's just kind of culminated, and it's more heightened once the season's over with because that's your focus.
Are there 1 or 2 or 5 players perhaps in this draft that you guys and your team have targeted and say, well, if this guy slides like, you know, the rumors might have it, we got to pounce on that at X number? and do you feel comfortable that you could make that happen?
Yeah, I mean, we know the guys in the draft, so if something unusual came up, we would be ready to pounce on it, as you say. But you don't predict. If a guy is predicted to slide, then it's not a slide. You know what I mean? A slide is when a guy is predicted to go high, and for some reason he goes really low. But if you think a guy's going to slide, then it's not a slide.
Nico, I don't know how many people had you guys going to the Western Conference Finals going into last season. What do you have to do to top that this season?
I mean, there's a lot of things that have to happen. One, we got to stay healthy. We got to make sure that we keep the same connectedness that we had last year. But I mean, there's no guarantee, even with staying healthy and playing good basketball, that you're gonna go to the Western Conference Finals and, as you say, top it. Like, there's no guarantee. It takes a lot of luck. It takes a lot of luck, good matchups, good fortune. We can have a better team on paper next year than we had starting last year, and it's still no guarantee. The West is tough. Teams are going to come back. The Clippers are going to come back better than they were. Other teams are going to come back better. So I don't think there's a guarantee. Our goal is to come back better and give ourselves an opportunity to do what we did, but there's no guarantee.
Nico, given where you guys are with the salary cap and roster spots, how does that kind of shape how you enter this player acquisition period of drafting, trades, free agency, whatever comes?
I mean, we take it all into consideration. You know, it's we have so many if-then scenarios, so we take it all. We take it all into consideration. It's all on our board.
This time last year, of course, you were getting a lot of calls, congratulations and all that, but still preparing for the draft. What is the difference in the types of conversations you're having now, feedback, whatever, whether it's from other teams and agents, and now you're sitting here as a Western Conference finalist? Well, no teams are congratulating me, that's for sure. Nobody wants to help us out, trust me. The conversations are different. I mean, I know a little bit more about how the league works and, you know, how the acquisitions work. So different type of conversations.
What would be a scenario where you could see yourself trading into the second round? Because you say you don't want to trade your players. So what would that entail if you guys do decide to do that?
Well, one, there'd have to be a player that we really like that happens to be available, and I don't know, you could, just for an example, you could trade a future second for a second this year. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it. You could trade cash.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you, Nico. Thank you. See you guys in about 6 hours. How you doing? Good to see you.
Thanks for your patience. We'll start with questions.
Can we talk about who's not here? There was, yeah. Wasn't there 4 cameras earlier?
All right, now, so I presume you can talk about anything and everything. What do you, how do you see this trade for Christian and what he brings to the Mavericks?
Yeah, I mean, Christian, he gives us something that we don't have. He's a good rebounder. He's super athletic. He'll be great with Luka in the pick and roll. He can play above the rim. He can also shoot. I mean, he's an offensive guy at that position. So he's an athletic offensive guy. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, Nico, what can you tell us about Jaden Hardy?
He's a young kid, played in the G League Ignite, and he can really score the ball. Super talented. He's still raw. He's young, so it's gonna take a while. He was a second-round draft pick, but he can really score the ball at a high level.
What's his upside in your estimation?
Upside in terms of explain a little bit more. What do you mean?
Do you see him being a rotation guy sometime in the next year or two?
Yeah, I think you got to give young guys a chance to develop, but definitely we drafted him because we think he'll be a rotation player for sure.
What was the pre-draft process with you guys and Jaden, and what did you like about him personally in that process?
We like really his. If you look at the way he grew with the Ignite, he started off a little slow. He really came into his own. He's athletic. He's long wingspan, good size. He can get to the basket at will, and he's really. I mean, he's a scorer, and he's scored. He's been a scorer his whole life, but I think when you take a kid that doesn't go to college and tries the G League Ignite and is playing with older, more mature people, and you see him develop as he's going through that, it just shows you what he can become.
First of all, were you surprised as he kept slipping? And where did you guys have him on your board?
We had him higher than 37. Yeah, we were surprised. We were really shocked that he kept slipping.
And then the other thing is, it was obviously noticeable to everybody that the Knicks cleared out quite a bit of salary cap space, and I think it's pretty obvious what they're trying to do. What is your concern level with that?
I mean, we're aware of it, but you know, we knew they would do that. We weren't shocked that they did that. They tried to do it at the trade deadline, so you know, don't really have a concern level. I mean, it was expected.
We were joking about not having made a pick yet in your time here before the draft. How much of an inclination did you have going in that you might trade back in, or you mentioned him sliding a little bit? How much did you think that might happen, that you all would get back in?
I had no inclination. I just knew that we did the work. We knew the guys we liked, and if guys we liked, like Jaden, were available, that we would try to get back in. And so you can't predict that. And it happened, and so we did as we said we would do. We got in and got the player that we liked.
You've seen a lot of second-round picks end up on two-way deals. Do you anticipate that Hardy will be one of your 15, or is a two-way still a possibility for him?
Not sure yet, but either way, we expect him to be a guy that has a long-term future with us.
And then, I don't know how much you feel like you can talk about Brunson at this point. Clearly you guys said going into the offseason, keeping him was a top priority. Just curious your level of optimism at this point in the process.
Honestly, until he tells us that he doesn't want to be here, we're optimistic. We haven't heard otherwise, so we're optimistic. We have to be.
going back to Christian, with him being in the last year of his contract, do you guys right now view him as a future piece of the organization, or are you taking a wait and see approach with that?
I think we both offer each other a lot. And so I think we will have to do a little bit of showing him, and he'll have to do a little bit of showing us, if that makes sense.
Just again with Christian, is it his athleticism? What was it? And well, first of all, how quickly did that come together last week? And obviously, it was agreed to. And how what drew you to him? I know some people have had a fascination with him for quite some time.
I mean, not to sound like super obvious, but you know, we don't have a guy that does what he does. I mean, we just don't. And there's several guys in the league that do that, but are you going to be able to get them or not? And he was a guy that we saw that we could get, and it just made sense. I mean, he fits a piece that we don't have currently on our roster.
Along those lines, the front court was an area that you wanted to address. How much do you feel like you've addressed it, and where do you think the roster sits now as you get ready to go into free agency? How close do you think you are?
Well, the biggest question is, you know, Jalen Brunson. So it's tough to say how set the roster is till you know, and that's going to be the first thing that happens. And once you know that, then you go along with the rest of the plan.
With Jaden, it was kind of clear that he had some struggles in his first year against higher competition, higher level of competition. How did that affect your evaluation of him going into the draft?
It actually affected it in a positive way, if that makes sense, because he did struggle early on, but then he figured it out. And so it's kind of like if you look at the G League Ignite as a experiment, it shows that it works.
For a guy like Jaden that was such a highly ranked recruit coming out of high school and he goes into G League, why do you think that he slipped to 37?
I have no idea. I can't really tell you what other teams are thinking or saying. I'm glad he did. We're excited that he did. He's excited to be here, so I'm happy he slipped.
Are there any other post-draft, undrafted deals that have been made since then?
Explain yourself.
Sorry, bad question. Undrafted deals as far as like two-way guys or summer league deals since the draft is concluded?
Yeah, we're actually, they're still in the back working on the summer league team, so that won't be completed for a while.
Yeah, I know you traveled with the team, went to all the games and all that. Did you get a chance to go to Frisco and see Jalen play at any time during the season?
I got to see him play during the showcase. But I mean, all of our scouts got to see him play. I watched tons of film on him. I saw him play in high school. We're familiar with him.
What stood out the most to you about him?
I mean, I'll say the same thing. I mean, he's a guy that can go get a bucket. He's strong. He's athletic. He's a scorer. I think his upside is he's played with mature guys, and he's been successful with strong, mature guys. And so I think if you look at a guy doing that in college versus doing it in G League Ignite, I think it's closer to what the NBA game is. And, like I said earlier, he struggled early on, and he figured it out and got better and better. And if you look at his teammates, one of the things is, he's doesn't pass the ball, a little selfish. Those were kind of the knocks on him. But if you look at the way he played, his team always gave him the ball because they trusted him. They know he has the work ethic. He put the time in the gym. And so if you look at his teammates, and some of them are veterans, he had the ball in his hand because they gave him the ball. If you see the shot clock running down, they gave him the ball. They only do that for people they trust.
Was your trade the absolute last one that the league got to tonight?
I believe so.
I figured.